This is Kanzenshuu, the podcast, episode 324 for the week of February 17th, 2013. Yo, what up, folks? Welcome to Kanzenshuu,
the podcast,
an extension of the all-encompassing Dragon Ball fan site.
Kanzenshuu.
That's right, we cover anything and everything Dragon Ball in hopes of enlightening and a little bit of entertaining. Hey everyone, my name is Mike VegettoEX. I have gathered folks from across time zones, across the world, on this fine morning for us, a fine evening in Japan.
Yes.
You can probably hear that, the coffee starting to kick into my morning voice here. I'm on a roll. Starting, and I'm going to crash maybe about half an hour into the show. I'll just be a blob of uncaffeinated Mike.
Yes.
Let's start in this country here. Joining me from a time zone back, Heath, the Hujio, sir. What up, dude?
Oh, you know, things, trying to catch up on sleep and whatnot.
Yeah, how's that whole thing going?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Being sick, having kids. Yeah, your life is awesome.
Yeah. Well, not only am I sick, but my wife was sick. So then I have to tend to the little one while she does her thing in the bathroom. So, yay. Fun times.
Awesome.
But yeah, got a new car. I've painted my kitchen and our bathroom, and so there's lots of other stuff that's going on.
And yet somehow you're still doing Kanzenshuu site work. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't either.
All right, so Let's jump across that ocean. Also joining us in the late evening. So let's get going here. Julian, what up, dude?
Oh, it's going. My children are in bed. Although from the sounds that are emanating from the bedroom, I think my daughter is probably still awake and my wife is asleep.
I know, she wanted to jump in and be on the show with you, it sounded like.
Yes. Well, I shut the bedroom door earlier and Tomoko was sleeping and Elena waved to me.
Hi,
and I can hear her singing to herself right now.
We'll get her on at some point in the future. Once she's seen enough episodes, she can give us that child perspective. It'll be amazing.
You do realize she's still 2, right?
Yeah, I do realize that.
Which would make it awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to chronicle her experiences with Dragon Ball from this young age. All right, I guess those are shows in the making many years down the road. So we missed an episode last week. We're here to rejoin with news and content galore. We have news, we have stories, and we have information. I just want to jump into stuff. So what you can look forward to this episode is a catch up on the news from the last 2 weeks, which was super, super heavy, and then it slowed down, and it slowed down, and it was nice, and then it's ramping up again. And there's probably going to be news, Julian, in less than 12 hours when you go pick up Weekly Jump, right?
Oh, yes. So, yes, I'll be stopping by the convenience store on my way to work to see if there's anything relevant in this week's edition of Jump.
Right. And I guess maybe I can do a little insert if something happens to pop up. But it's another one of those cases where whenever the podcast comes out, I'm sure 2 news stories will come out after that, and we'll just deal with that. So
I'm just halfway hoping anything in Jump is just going to be the exact same thing.
I know. Please.
Yes.
Please have nothing this week, for the love of...
Please, no bombs. Well, we do have V-Jump coming out on Thursday as well.
But I'm prepared for that. That's fine. That's after the podcast comes out. That is okay with me. So we got your news. Julian, you have amazing story time for us. Auditioning for a TV show.
Yes. So, it must be about 2 weeks ago now, but there's this TV show in Japan on Fuji TV or Kansai TV here in Osaka called Hoko Tate. And Hoko Tate means, it's like spear versus shield. And it's about this old phrase in China that's based on the story about a man who was selling spears and shields and saying that they were both invincible. And anyway, it's the origin of the Japanese word for contradiction. And
Gotcha.
So they pit 2 sides who are absolutes against each other to see which one will give. And yes, so 2 times already they've had this thing with One Piece where ultimate fans have gone up against editors who have basically they work at Shueisha and they were the editors at Weekly Shonen Jump for the creator of One Piece, Eiichiro Oda. And among those fans was Greg Werner of the erstwhile Ultimate Dragon Ball Z information site, which was way, way, way back in the ancient times of the internet.
I believe Greg started in 97, a year before I did.
Yes. But anyway, he's a huge One Piece fan, and he knows things about the series that probably nobody except the author does, because he goes through every page just to see, like, secret messages and hidden things. And, yeah. Anyway, so there was a very similar thing that they introduced via an ad about collecting Dragon Ball fans to do something like that. So I immediately emailed me, and in fact Greg also sort of went on Twitter and went, "Are you auditioning for this?" And I went, "Yes."
All right, well, let's stop the story there, because that's going to come after the news. We'll catch up with, now that folks know there's this TV show Trivia Battle, we'll catch up with that. And then also we're going to share whatever little new information there was in Kanzenshuu #1 Story and World Guide, which you've already read on the site. So we're just going to plop it kind of toward the end of this episode. We have so much, you can hear, we have so much to do. So let's do news right now. All right, Julian, we're going to start with you because you kind of keep us up on all this constant flow of news.
Yes.
Oh, my God. So this was Weekly Jump a couple weeks ago. There are new Dragon Ball promotions that we've seen.
Yes. So, as you might recall, the pre-order tickets for Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods, these being the ones for just the movie and not the ones that were released earlier with the One Piece and Dragon Ball promotion, came with these one of two sets of Dragon Ball pens, and mysteriously absent from these Dragon Ball pens was one of the 4-star ball, and they revealed in the March 2013 issue of V-Jump about what happened to it. So apparently those who do triple admission, so they buy 3 pre-sale tickets rather than 1 or 2, they get a couple of special items on top of the Dragon Ball pen sets. There's a special QR code for Dragon Ball Heroes Ultimate Mission, where you can face off against the God of Destruction himself. Also a Dragon Ball Heroes Theatrical Limited Edition card. And at the theater, when you go to see the movie, the people who get those 3 pre-order tickets will also receive the final Dragon Ball pen and a Dragon Radar case to hold all 7 of those pens. So finally we understand what happened to that last Dragon Ball, the 4-star ball.
This is kind of convoluted promotion here. You got to do so much stuff.
Yes,
Yeah,
well,
but you also have to buy 3 tickets.
Yeah.
it's catering to those hardcore fans and maybe parents with more than one child.
Right.
But anyway, so apart from that, we also learned about the convenience store pre-sale tickets. So that one of them had a pack that included a Son Goku mascot ballpoint pen, and another one that included a Shenlong room light. Now, these are very expensive compared to the regular tickets. The standard price for adults who want just the pen would be $2,160 versus, $1,300 for the regular ticket. And then the Shenlong room light, which is kind of like a night light, I suppose. It's kind of vague in the thing, is 7,000 yen.
Wow. So you're around $70 there for this one.
But
Yeah,
it looks so cool.
I guess.
I know.
I mean, it's got panties.
Yeah, it does. I didn't even notice that. I can't believe I didn't see that.
Yes. Yeah, actually, I think this might go on a desk. It's hard to tell from the picture.
I'm going to put that on my desk at work. Can you get this for me, Julian? I think that would be appropriate, right?
You gonna give me 7,000 yen?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Then maybe I'll think about it.
Okay.
Yes. So this is all stuff that's coming to us from V-Jump from last month, and Weekly Jump from the beginning of February. But we've also got a lot of details about the exhibit that's going to be held in several department stores around, well, just the 3 major cities of Japan, which is Tokyo, Nagoya, and Osaka. So there's this art exhibit that's going to be Akira Toriyama, The World of Dragon Ball, and there's going to be 7 zones where the ad claims that you will understand everything about Dragon Ball. They'll have the whole timeline of Dragon Ball, complete history. There's a character wall, a comic manuscript gallery, color illustration gallery, a treasure museum, which I'm not sure what that's going to have, anime gallery, and a special theater. And this will be in Tokyo at the Nihonbashi Takashimaya department store from March 27th to April 15th, in Osaka at the Hanshin department store from April 17th to April 23rd a single week, so I'm going to really have to try and get out there.
Yeah, haul ass out to that one.
Yep, and in Nagoya at the Matsuzakaya department store from July 27th to September 1st, quite a bit later in that one. So the admission at the Tokyo venue has been revealed at 800 for adults, 600 for university and high school students, and free for junior high schoolers and below, but we don't have any information about any of the other ones yet.
Gotcha.
Okay. So that's that. That's all the promotions that we had revealed towards the beginning of the month.
All right, cool. All right, let's jump around. Julian, you and I covered a lot of the full color manga stuff, but that's more topic-y material, and I think we're going to save some of that for a couple more volumes of the print, a couple more volumes of the digital before we do any kind of formal review on that stuff. So you can check that out kind of in the flow of news and content. But Heath, let's jump over to you and have you cover a little bit of, you've been doing a lot of work on the site with this stuff. February 4th, continuing this flow of news, early Dragon Ball chapters were indeed released in color digitally. Ta-da, here it is, guys.
Surprise, surprise. Yeah, we had early on an announcement that Shueisha sort of hinted at. We're not quite sure what we're going to do with these early chapters, but the full color comics will be coming out. We're starting with the Z portion, and everybody was on board. And then release day, February 4th, boom, they threw them all up online. The first 20 tonkobon are online digitally. You can go buy them. They even created, it looks like a website, which has a couple other series on it as well, but they have like almost no material, and almost half of Dragon Ball is online. So
yeah, this is crazy. Now, Heath, if you could you actually back up a little bit? Because a few years ago, Shueisha did kind of dip their toes into showing, I know we've talked about this, but now we kind of see how this all ties together. They did put out some early chapters, they did in English and Japanese, of colorized Dragon Ball manga.
That is correct. So Shueisha actually began testing the idea of releasing digital Dragon Ball manga way back in June 2009, which really caught a couple people off guard because it wasn't advertised very well.
Yeah, and it was Kai is going, and it's kind of okay, but it wasn't, I don't know, it just kind of was there.
And so basically what Shueisha did was on their manga online website, which is still up today, they started off, the very first series was Dragon Ball, and they would post about one chapter a week, one version in Japanese and one version in English.
And it was the Viz translation, wasn't it?
Yes, correct. And so that, lasted for a little while, and people were kind of like, oh, this is good. And then eventually Shueisha started doing other series like Bleach and One Piece. And so you kind of could see him ramping up to do this new digital color release of various popular manga series that were running. And then all of a sudden, Dragon Ball just stopped.
Yeah, it's like,
November
that's it,
2009.
we're done. They didn't even announce it. That was it. There was no more.
Yeah, it just stopped, and it was never there again. And everyone just kind of thought, well, Shueisha must have decided it was too much of a financial commitment to do this, keep up with it. And they were giving these chapters out for free.
Right. I mean, we've seen this with, Kai is another great example where it's just, okay, this is over. No real announcement about it ending. It's just Shueisha and Toei and all the associated parties. They just do stuff and they just stop stuff.
Right. Which was a little odd because they had done the first 23 chapters. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, come on, you guys. You're almost done with the first arc of the
story
series.
Arc, I know.
And then all of a sudden, unbeknownst to many people, because again, it was not heavily advertised, in October of 2012, they actually released all 42 tankobon volumes digitally, although in black and white. And you could go on like Amazon Japan and order them for your Kindle.
Right.
And you could read them all. And they were fairly inexpensive, much cheaper than the printed version.
Yes, I think they're 350 yen plus tax. Yeah.
Yeah, which is down from, well, not much. I guess 420.
Yeah.
I think it was. So then in December 2012, we found out that all these Dragon Ball full color comics were going to come out. We eventually found out that they would cover the entire Z era of the manga. And everyone was kind of like, well, what's going to happen? And we did have a few members actually point out that, oh, remember when they did this with the original chapters way back when? And lo and behold, they just threw them all up online.
Right, except now they're for purchase.
Exactly. And the original 23 chapters they had posted, they are identical to what was released back in June of 2009.
I guess that's pretty important to say is, yes, they are exactly those things from 2009.
Yep.
Except now you purchase them instead of kind of getting piecemeal week at a time.
Which is kind of weird because then it makes you wonder, well, how far had they actually gone at that point?
Right,
or
how much
did
work
they
is
just
already
decide,
done?
you know what, at some point, we're going to release all of them. Let's stop doing it for free. And they just kept working from the end of 2009 all the way to the end of 2012.
Yeah, maybe the whole thing's done by now. They've just been slowly picking away at it.
Yeah, it kind of makes it almost seem like this was planned.
I know. I was just thinking that. Like, wait a second, was this a plan?
Which is kind of weird because we've been talking for years about moving into the digital market.
Which they did. They launched the Jump bookstore and stuff, but you see how many of their domestic partners are doing so many innovative things. It's kind of refreshing to see Shueisha jump on the innovation hype train here.
I know, finally.
Nice.
So anyway, purchase. Go. Fun.
Yes. So you can go online now and purchase the first 20 volumes, which, you know, from the very beginning up through the end of Goku's battle with Vegeta. And coming, when is it? April 4th, I believe, will be the next round, which will cover the entire Frieza arc. So look forward to it. Basically, by the end of 2013, we will have all 42 volumes colorized.
Nice.
So
big year.
At least that's the way it appears.
All right. This next story is very, very, very heavily tied in with that, talking about innovation and trying to disrupt the market and see what trends are out there. Mary and I wouldn't say we're big fans of, but there's a couple select things of, I forget what they're called. I think they're called motion comics is the phrase for it. And if you know Mary, you know she's a huge X-Men fan. And if you know us, we are kind of okay fans of Joss Whedon. So obviously Mary is kind of one of the biggest fans on the planet of Astonishing X-Men. There was a motion comic made for Astonishing X-Men that I think stalled out after the first of the 4 Joss Whedon run parts. And finally the whole thing came out on Blu-ray recently. So we were kind of big into Astonishing again. Motion comics are this semi-recent trend. Marvel's been really big into it, where you go back to the actual original artwork of the manga, of the comic itself, and it's kind of this hybrid between a still comic and a full animated cartoon, where things are a little more stiff, and it's kind of like skeletons are built beneath some of the artwork so they can move at limbs and things, and a punch won't necessarily be a fully animated punch, but like Wolverine might slide across the screen with his claws out kind of thing. Ooh. And it seemed like maybe Dragon Ball was going to be heading in this direction, only sort of, kind of, not really. Here's a promotional trailer.
You mean not at all?
Gotcha. Not really what it is. Julian, can you give us a little bit of background on what this new Manga Polo initiative is?
Okay, so basically, now coming from the press release here, so it's their, how do I explain this?
I know, right?
So Dentsu is working together with Shueisha to put out these video versions of these comics on YouTube, and basically it's obviously promoting the full color manga, both the digital release and the print version, and they're doing, you know, basically 1 chapter a week of the 4 different arcs that are available digitally right now, which is the first arc, and then the Red Ribbon, Piccolo, and Saiyajin. So every week they're just it's kind of a low-tech version of motion comics in that they have the panels and they're sort of panning and zooming over them.
Well, before that, let's start with kind of the first thing I think everyone saw, which was the promotional trailer for the Sian arc, which was basically this full-scale motion comic thing where things are kind of in 3D layers on the page and sound effects are popping out and special attacks are flying across the screen. This was super, super exciting, dare I say. I was ultimate excited by what we saw here. And that was just the trailer, though. When you go back and you look at the actual product, so to speak, it is literally just, here's a panel. It's not even zooming or panning across the screen. It's just, here's a panel in this 16:9 window, and other panels just kind of flop on top of it. Maybe they'll split screen it. But they're moving super, super fast. And Julian, I'm curious, even as someone who can read Japanese, you know, on a daily basis, you don't have reading comprehension problems here. Could you even keep up with some of that stuff?
Occasionally it gets a bit too like, oh, hey, wait, we're going. Stop.
Yeah.
No, come back. Yeah, it's kind of a pain sometimes.
So is this
So,
yeah, we're showing you, but we're not really showing you. Come buy the full thing if you want to actually read full sentences.
Kind of feels that way, yeah. So sometimes it's convenient, sometimes it's not, yeah?
Can you tell us what Manga Polo comes from? It's kind of funny.
So apparently it's a combination of, obviously, manga along with Marco Polo to make their way into the open sea to spread the joy of manga around the world.
It's kind of funny.
Okay.
Now, they were promising English and Japanese. Have we seen any of the English stuff pop up yet?
I haven't been really paying attention, so...
I know last time I checked, there wasn't. I'm pretty sure someone was responding. Maybe it was on our comments or even on Facebook, like, where's the English version? Because their official Facebook page kind of does cross English and Japanese posts and stuff. So it's like, hey guys, where's the English version? But I don't know. Maybe they're slow on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't show any yet.
So what do you guys think about this? This is a very, very new thing. They're kind of creating this new branding to promote things. I'm impressed, I think. I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know what to think.
I mean, they're obviously really pushing this hard, and they're using these digital channels in a way that they haven't really shown any initiative with previously. So
Right.
I think it's probably headed in the right direction, even if it's maybe not done completely ideally.
And this is one of those dealies where they're working specifically with YouTube, where YouTube provides financial incentive for content creators, obviously the people who legitimately own the rights to things, to create these new initiatives. So they're getting some extra funding to do this. And I don't know, this strikes me as very un-Japanese. This strikes me as, a Silicon Valley kind of push for some new social network community thing. That's where I'm used to seeing these things.
Well, it's Google, right? YouTube.
Right. So
kind of
that's
makes sense.
that. All right. We have so much more. I want to talk about all of this stuff so much, but there's so many other things to cover. So let's just keep it going here. The next story, Battle of Gods, IMAX press release. The only thing I want to say here was, Julian, when we initially covered this, the press release was in Japanese. Now,
Yes.
The quotes from, I forget who the guy's name here was, Greg Foster, chairman and president of IMAX
yes.
Entertainment. You were translating from Japanese what were clearly originally in English. So here we are getting the actual original English sentence, which was translated to Japanese for the Japanese press release, which you had to get English translations from. They line up pretty well.
Oh, I'm actually glad. I was actually thinking of throwing in Perfectly Suited into the English
Yes.
translation of the Japanese.
Right.
But I actually thought, maybe that's not actually what he said, but
Turns out.
or ideally suited or something like that. And actually he said it is an ideal fit for the IMAX experience. And
That's funny.
Okay, I guess I could have been even more right, and I chose not to be because I thought, he wouldn't have said that.
So this is pretty fun. Just some interesting stuff here. Noting the chapters where things are, and I like the translation of Demon Boo instead of Majin Buu. It's awesome seeing these kind of promotional, they are not in the Dragon Ball world. So they're presented with this information and they just go, all right, what is this word? Or I just go. They don't have these 20 years of back history where Majin has typically been untranslated in all of English fandom, save for Viz's translation, which used a different language instead of English for their own word, which has always been a hysterical viewpoint of mine.
Indeed.
Anything else you guys want to say about this? Just kind of, it's there. It's the English version.
It's going to be in IMAX.
I will say that it's funny when other sites that will go unnamed lift our news updates. Typically, they try to sort of massage my translation so it's not as immediately obvious. But this one, I guess they probably figured that it was English to begin with, so it was just my translation verbatim.
Yeah. Well, from the prior one, right?
Yeah,
Not
so
this
that was
English version.
very, very obvious.
Yeah, I feel like Julian's English translation is more prevalent online than the actual original English quote now. So good job, man.
Thanks.
Let me just take this next one real quick. Namco Bandai Q3 fiscal 2013. Dragon Ball's it's kind of holding steady in terms of merchandise, maybe dipping a little bit. Dragon Ball was once again on the list of best performing franchises. Again, we say Dragon Ball Kai is on TV. It is not on the best performing list. Dragon Ball Kai no longer on TV. Dragon Ball is on the best performing list. You can probably make a lot of assumptions from that little bit of information. These first 9 months, it's done 4.9 billion yen, which is a good bit down from the 6.7 billion it did the same period last year. And they're projecting 7.5 billion for the full year, which itself is also down from last year's 11.8 billion. That's all of merchandise, hobby stuff that Namco Bandai does. But if you want to talk about the non-video game specific stuff, which really is most of it, because what have the last year video games been? Games that haven't even come out in Japan itself. We're talking the Budokai HD collection and Dragon Ball Z for Kinect didn't exactly set the gaming world on fire. So toys and hobby merchandise, it jumped this tiniest bit, 3.4 billion this year compared to 3.2 billion last year, these 9 months. And then they're forecasting 4.5 billion, which is only up from 4.4 billion last year. So just all these numbers being thrown at you. In a nutshell, like I said, if it's not holding steady, it's dipping ever so slightly below what it had done last year. I think this fiscal year is, I don't want to call it a wash for the franchise, but it's up against what will be a clearly larger push later in the year after Battle of Gods, which is kind of going to come right in the end of the fiscal year for Namco Bandai.
It'll be really interesting to compare these 2 years.
Yeah.
When we're done.
Yeah, I'm almost afraid to compare how it works, because if it's great, those are great numbers to compare. And if it doesn't work out for them, like, fuck, man, what do you do?
New
it's
movie.
recession time.
So that's it. In terms of Namco Bandai figures, right now we're just holding out for full fiscal year, see how it does, update our charts, look ahead to the next fiscal year and see how Battle of Gods affects anything. So we'll hold steady. Julian, we have a new TV special coming our way.
Yes, so we have One Piece and Dragon Ball and Toriko crossing over to air
burn.
April 7th. Okay,
Damn,
so
man.
technically it's for Toriko, but yeah, I'm not really interested in Toriko. So. Anyway, but I'll enough of my editorialization here.
That's okay. It's what the show is for.
There was a One Piece and Toriko TV special 2 years ago, and at the time, Toriko was just getting on TV. It replaced Dragon Ball Kai, so they were really pushing Toriko, and now they're going to do a similar thing, only with the addition of Dragon Ball. So there's going to be what's being billed as the Dream 9 Toriko and One Piece and Dragon Ball Z Super Collaboration Special in 2 parts. The first will be Run Strongest Team, Toriko, Luffy, and Goku. And the second part will be the mightiest collaboration in history versus the gluttonous man of the sea. And there's just this teasing announcement from the producer, Arisu Takagi, where she says things like, what would happen if Zebra, Zoro, and Vegeta fought, and whose cooking is more amazing, Komatsu or Sanji?
So do we even know anything about the special in terms of who's going to appear? We just have these hints and maybe like little, I don't even know what to call these.
Yes, these teases, and I think they have since released a general plot outline as well as who's going to be in it. I think Anime News Network covered it.
Yeah.
And you can tell our level of enthusiasm for this because we did not.
Yeah, well, I'm excited about it. It's just I don't know what else there is to say. Like, okay, there's going to be some characters. I don't know. I'm just kind of holding out for the actual special itself.
Yep.
So do you guys think this is going to tie in with Project vs. J at some point? That is the upcoming team battle crossover game that we really only know is going to be PS3 and Vita, and that's kind of it.
I don't know that it
no.
will, but it would be a good chance to actually do something with it.
Yeah.
Since you have all 3 on there, they're going to be on TV. Who knows?
Wow, I'm the most excited about this. Screw you guys.
Wow.
I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, I think it'll be interesting, but I only really care about 2 of the 3 series, and
All right.
that's about it.
I have nothing against Toriko. I haven't read it or seen it or anything. So
I've watched a few episodes just to see what it was about, and I was not particularly impressed.
Gluttonous food.
More than anything, I don't know, not being particularly interested in the story, it just made it very obvious how cheap the animation was and them scrolling over still frames. And I realized that Dragon Ball is guilty of many of the same things, but because I'm not interested in what's going on. It just becomes, hey, cheap animation.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's start wrapping up the news. I got 2 bits of music news that I'll kind of do together at once, and then we got a final bit of video game / Battle of Gods news that I'll hand over to one of you guys. But let me just talk about Flow for a second here. So we know Flow doing a cover of Chala Had Chala is going to be the main theme of Battle of Gods. We knew it had a CD single coming out. We know the B-side is called Hero, Song of Hope. Well, it's actually a double A-side, as they call it, where both songs are kind of that important, and Hero is going to be an insert song in Battle of Gods. CD single is going to be coming out on March 20th. I guess let me start with that, and then we'll actually work backward. We just got the cover art for the CD single for these 2 songs, and wrapped up in that was the announcement of the original soundtrack for Battle of Gods, which had not been announced yet. So we got cover art for all that stuff right now. And if you place them all side by side, you get this larger image of Shenlong in the background. Now, we also knew that the first pressing of the CD single was going to come with this exclusive illustration. We kind of know what all that is now. The first pressing, the cover art is of the Dragon Ball characters. And then later on, we presume when it's no longer the first pressing, if you pick it up, the cover art will be the band Flow drawn Toriyama style. But then there's also this original soundtrack for Battle of Gods. All we have is a release date, March 27th, which is 3 days before the movie comes out. We don't have a track listing or anything like that yet. So just here's the cover, it's coming, here's the date, here's the catalog number, 2,800 yen. Enjoy. Although, Julian, you did say it's going to have soundtrack versions, which we assume will be kind of TV-sized versions of Hedgehog and Hero.
Yes, or movie size if you prefer. But yeah.
Got it. That's kind of it for Battle of Gods specific stuff. I don't know. A lot of people have been tearing the artwork a new one here. Do you guys kind of agree with that?
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. What would you point out in particular? I know a lot of people are honing in on noses. I think I agree with that, where they're just kind of these little
hair
things.
Pointy.
In eyes.
Yeah. I don't know, they're just, everyone's...
And just the line styles
just a little
very off.
Off model every once in a while here.
Like, everybody's off model here. And
Gohan's face
Kuririn has
a
new hairstyle that he did not have in any of the manga, but it's a completely different version from what there actually is in the movie promotion stuff that we've seen. So, yeah.
I don't know.
My favorite part is that if you flip back and forth between the two, they use the exact same version.
Yeah.
Except then they just made everybody Super Saiyan.
And they got rid of some people.
Their hair.
Yes.
Really?
And
okay.
I don't know. The Piccolo always seems to be kind of the way he's placed. I think particularly the soundtrack one, he doesn't seem to be in the same plane as everyone else. He's not standing with them. He's like further back, and
but the perspective is all wrong.
Yeah, same thing with Kuririn on the right.
Yep.
Except his hair actually looks decent. I think more so than everyone else's.
I don't know.
But how often do we really see him with hair?
I don't know. I think was it Metal Wario in our forum did a new drawing of it, and everyone's like, "Well, there's the official art. I'm just gonna print that out. Let's use that. That's great."
Great.
I think the one thing that really it just stands out so much to me, like I mentioned, was the line weights of just Shenlong, of how thick his line weights are compared to everybody else's. And I have a feeling what they did is he was actually drawn at the same size as them.
Yeah.
But they had to shrink everybody else down to fit them on, whereas he had to span the 3 separate covers. So it just really...
Yeah, there goes Hujio nitpicking everything again.
I mean, it's like Toriyama photocopying a panel to reuse so many chapters later. And
it's not like that never happened. All right, so that's cover art stuff. Let's leave that alone. Let me just cover the last bit of Flow news. That's their 8th studio album, Flow the Max, which also happens to be due out March 27th, the same date as the Battle of Gods soundtrack. It's going to include both songs, Hedgehog and Hero, Song of Hope. 2 versions. There's a regular, there's a limited edition version that comes with a DVD. It's actually not that much more, so you might as well get that one. Although we don't know what's going to be on the DVD itself just yet. So you've got all these things coming. You've got the CD single, the movie soundtrack, Flo's album. Don't forget, there's also that best song collection, 20th Century Best, coming, I think, like a week or so, something like that. My CD Japan order history is insane right now.
I'm still waiting for Dragon Ball Kai original soundtrack 4.
Yeah, I think you're going to be waiting a while on that one, bud. All right, let's wrap up the news with this last one. We have so much other great stuff coming your way, but this was a very exciting tidbit here. Someone take it. I don't know, you two, fight to the death over it.
All right. So, God of Destruction will be joining Zenkai Battle Royale, and hopefully will be appearing in my home sometime within the next few years. The Japanese-only, arcade-only multiplayer fighting game that we've talked about forever, Zenkai Battle Royale, will be receiving a nice update, and Birisu, the God of Destruction, will be joining the roster. Recently we've seen Videl and Sarban, but now we are going for a Battle of Gods tie-in, and his character design looks fucking awesome.
He fits in so well with the Zenkai Battle Royale aesthetic. I love it.
Just the color scheme and the way everything works.
Just a little shiny and just the kind of thin body to him.
Oh, it looks really good. And we have some screenshots that came along with it. And so we have a couple moves that it appears he will be performing. Although we don't know that they're in the movie or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah.
Yes.
I want this game.
Now, Julian, he's not just immediately accessible. You got to go through all these hoops to get him.
Yes. So,
which only makes it more worth it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so there's this competition for Dragon Balls, or Scramble for Dragon Balls battle, that randomly occurs during the period starting March 30th. And you can do it in single player when doing a battle royale or a team battle in national versus mode, or two player when doing a team battle in national versus mode. And I guess first of all, you have to manage to collect all 7 Dragon Balls, and to obtain the Dragon Ball, you have to get first place. If you're in a pair, each of you gets a Dragon Ball, and you have to get 7 of them, all 7, in order to do this. And they've had this sort of promotion in the past, but those are all voided now, so you can't use the past ones. So you have to do it this time. So it's all very complicated, and I don't know if I've explained that very well. But
it's okay. This time period, win fights, collect Dragon Balls, get 7, insert Birisu.
Yes.
All right. Guys, that wraps up the news. We have some more stuff to cover. This was an amazing couple weeks. It's only going to get crazier, so obviously stick around. Kanzenshuu is your one and only best source for this stuff. Julian, it's story time. All right, Julian, so you kind of set the stage for us. This Hoko Tate show previously had done One Piece versions, trivia battles, super fans versus editors. The call went out. Japan, we need all of you number 1 Dragon Ball fans. Enter.
No, Dragon Ball nerds.
Dragon Ball nerds?
Yes. So I sent in my email saying I want to be on this, and a few days later I was contacted by the people who make the show. I said, we'd like you to come to Tokyo. And also, not just me, but Peking Duck, the guy with the crazy collection of everything. And also, I think it was by recommendation of Peking Duck, but K17 also went to the audition. So the night of February 9th, I think it was, I was up at Umeda with Peking Duck, getting ready to get on a night bus to Tokyo. And, I never want to take the night bus again. Not very good for sleeping.
No, but it was cheaper, right?
Well, they had the heat cranked all the way up. Yeah, so the caveat of the audition is that they don't pay for your transportation, so you have to pay your own way. And so getting my wife's permission was a bit tricky, but eventually she let me go. So I was on this. I was on this bus from 11 o'clock until 7 in the morning, so 8 hours of not being able to sleep and having Dragon Ball things and putting together a PowerPoint for my interview. And so we got there, and I think we had breakfast at a McDonald's, and then found a net cafe where you could recharge our electronics and brush our teeth and things. And then the studio and Fuji TV. So it was kind of weird, actually, just being there and sort of being let into this place that you've seen on TV before.
Mm-hmm.
And there were people reading books about Dragon Ball, which I've never actually bothered to read. And I'm wondering if maybe some of the things that I've discovered are also in there. But
You mean like
anyway,
guidebooks?
like guidebooks, but unofficial ones.
Like the amazing unofficial ones we've had over here in North America that
Yep.
we've covered on the show.
Yes, but maybe, I don't know.
Maybe not
Maybe
terrible.
they're better. Yes. But yeah, it was pretty exciting, kind of nerve-wracking. So there were sort of, there's about 35, 40 people all together, a range of ages. Some of them were kids, some of them were 30s, 20s. There's 2 women out of all of them. And one of them is a person whose blog I've read before, but she actually had her child like in a sling on the front as she was taking the test. So
wow.
I should also say there were 2 portions. There was an interview portion and a written test portion. So I was part of the first group that had the interview first.
Uh-huh.
So they took us in groups of 5, quizzed us about our fandom, what are the lengths we go for our fandom, and all these crazy things. How much do we know about the series?
At that
was
point,
pretty fun.
I would have just been like, bitches, Kanzenshuu. Peace out.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
I did mention that. I mentioned having less and less sleep because I need to translate everything to put up for the news and things like that. Yeah. And after that, we went back and we took the test. It was 50 questions of all kinds of things. I'm not sure I'm allowed to tell you what was on it, even in English.
Okay.
But
we've heard some of these questions and very, very interesting.
I knew maybe half of them, perhaps. I knew I did something stupid and I put Peppertown instead of Gingertown as a place where Cell shows up.
Yeah, Mary was horrified you got that wrong.
Yeah. I was right about it being a spicy thing.
Anyway, sure. Okay.
Yes.
So you did the interview first, and you said a bunch of people brought in at once. So did you all just kind of like compare penis sizes at this point? I mean, that's gonna be weird.
Well, it was just sort of like, well, these people are married, these people are single. This guy bought a house for his collection. Like Peking Duck again. So it was a lot of fun. Interesting to see what other fans were doing.
Okay, I'm glad it was fun.
It was kind of cool. I should mention at this point that in order to make myself stand out, apart from being the only foreigner there,
Being white, yes.
Yes. So I was wearing a tweed jacket, a bow tie, a hat, and a scouter.
Which was
It
awesome.
was pretty amazing. All right,
Yes.
so we've got the white guy here, just, I don't know, rocking it. So you did the interview, you took the test. How long did each of these last for?
The interview itself was maybe half an hour, and then we had some downtime. There's another group getting interview, and we had some lunch. And then it was maybe about half an hour for the test, maybe
Okay.
a little bit longer than that. It was hard to tell because I was sort of sweating.
Yeah. So you said they were rotating people in and out for the interviews, but then everyone came together and took the test at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
And after that, they had the second group of people go in and take the interviews. And in the meantime, Peking Duck and K17 and I swapping stories and talking about stuff. And,
That's got to be fun.
it was weird meeting someone I've only seen on his words on the forum
Well,
sort of thing.
how different is that from us finally meeting for the first time? I don't know. When was that? 2000?
It happens a lot.
I suppose you do have a point. But yeah, coming all the way down from, I forget what he said, something like Gunma Prefecture, which is not as far as Osaka, but, it's a ways north of Tokyo.
That's really fun. So, all right, the day kind of comes to a close with what?
Let's see. We took some time off while K17 was having his interview, and then the three of us met back up to get back on the train. I think I need to get back because I have 2 children to take care of.
Right.
So I left a little bit before the 2 of them and got on the Shinkansen, which was much nicer than being on a bus. In fact, my one worry is that I might fall asleep and miss my station. But so that was an interesting day. And a couple of days later, I got another phone call. They said, "You're maybe in the top 10." And they said at the time they were looking for 5 people. So I was instructed to put together a bunch of quiz questions.
Okay.
For professionals to look at, like people who worked on the series itself, perhaps even the editors. They didn't say who exactly, but I would kind of assume that's who it was.
Yeah, I was even
which is just
chatting with
crazy.
Heath the other day. We're thinking, wait, editors. We know who the 3 editors for Toriyama were. Oh my God.
Yes, so that was pretty exciting, and so I quickly went to Heath, and I've been going through the manga at this point and finding all these interesting things.
And Julian's sending these emails. I need this scanned. I need this scanned. I need this scanned.
And my wife is all like, "Why are you doing this? Just go to bed." I'm like, I have to get this done.
Yes, and I really appreciate that.
Well, you are welcome. I hope it's worth it.
And it will make some interesting material for the website.
Oh, definitely.
Once we get through the movie.
All right. So can you tell us anything about the quiz that you put together, or you still kind of don't want to? Where does that stand right now?
Well, I'm not really sure since I submitted it. I'm not sure if they're going to use it or not. But
that's true.
Yeah, some questions about things like, these characters were named or perhaps renamed by the anime. And as far as I know, there's 3 of them across the entire series, and things like that. And also, what's this written in this particular scene? But I sort of set it up with, okay, here's a good one.
Okay.
This, so Goku is narrowly defeated in the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai because on the way down, he ends up getting hit by a truck.
Right.
Now, there's something written on that truck that has a very interesting backstory.
Oh, so it's not just what's written there, but what is the context?
I know.
Yes.
Do you? All right, Heath, answer the question.
So, on the side of I believe it's a van, actually, isn't it?
Okay,
Or is it a truck?
Well, I think it's a van.
It says Mato something. Well, Mato is the nickname for Toriyama's dog that he has, named Matroska.
Matryoshka is the and the dog that he had
comes from like traditional Russian dolls.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yes,
something like that. So the truck or the van, whatever, is named after his Siberian Husky dog.
Yes. So the side of the van says Mato Dog Corporation.
But
Mato the dog is his Siberian Husky who died back in 1995, I think.
Right before I even watched the show.
Yes. Yes. Well, because he mentioned that in one of his...
Sure.
Well, he mentioned it several places. He mentioned it in his Jump comments. He mentioned it in one of the introductions to the volumes. And he mentioned it in one of the Shenlong Times comics that he did.
Got it. So that's the style of questions. But I mean, that's even on the more minor side of some of the stuff you put together.
Yes. So there's... what's a good other one that I put together? There's Dragon Quest monsters littered through one of the Budokai. There's, I think Heath mentioned on Twitter, there's, if you look very carefully, there's Wizard of Oz characters in the series that you can find.
I saw you talking back and forth with Greg about more Blade Runner references than you thought were in Dragon Ball.
I know, they're all over the place.
Well, partly because Toriyama reuses panels, but yes.
I mean, there are posters that you wouldn't even think to be looking for until you look for them. And there's like posters everywhere. Like any scene where there's like a house or anything like that. And it's just amazing what all he throws in the background that completely gets glazed over.
Yes, Robo Toriyama appears once more in the series besides Chapter 3.
All right, so Julian, you presented this quiz back to the producers of this show. Where do you go from here?
Okay, so they said that probably the next day they would be deciding on everything. And the end of that day, I got another phone call, and they said, well, we'd been talking this over with the people from Shueisha. It was, as far as I'm aware anyway. And, well, they decided that we should bring it down to 4 people, and we're very sorry to tell you this, but... So I didn't make it in.
Oh, you were number 5.
Sounds like it.
Bummer. You're fired, Julian.
Yeah, well, it was nice while it lasted.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I mean, I'm sure it was awesome for you to visit the studio and just kind of see this behind the scenes production of how this stuff all goes together. And we got stories out of it, and you're generating site content out of it at the same time. So
yes,
I
think I learned a lot about things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that I never noticed. if you look very carefully at the spaceship when they're going to Namek with Bulma and Krillin and Gohan, one of the things that Bulma has been reading and scattering around the ship is volumes of Dr. Slump.
Very nice. I mean, you go over to the movies. I think Gohan's got an Arale poster at some point. We've seen some of that before, but in the manga, everything's so much tinier that you really got to be on the lookout for it.
It's stuff that you can't necessarily read unless you have the Kanzenban.
Yeah.
There's one of the Budokai, there's a person with a Dragon Ball t-shirt.
Nice.
You can't see unless that's big enough.
And the only way to see half this stuff reasonably well is to scan it at like 600 dpi.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
We're future-proofing all of our content, too. You scan everything at 600?
Yes, I
You
did.
just keep masters of everything? Yeah.
Good.
Awesome. Oh, so that's kind of where we're leaving it right now, right? Man, I thought white dude shows up, he's a shoo-in.
Yeah, well, I don't know that would necessarily be the case. I thought that my enthusiasm...
I figured it'd be the bow tie.
I figured my enthusiasm for the series and my knowledge would be a certain boost.
Right.
But obviously there's a lot of other crazy fans out there.
Yeah.
And
is there anything you can say about some of the other presentations or levels of fandom? Did anyone strike you as, whoa, this person kind of blows me away? Or is it just Peking Duck's really number one and we kind of already know?
I think Peking Duck is pretty close to number one, but there were some kids who were really like, they seem to really know their stuff.
That's cool.
And I guess maybe, well, they've seen it more recently than I have. It was my rereading the manga over the past couple weeks was, the first time in a few years. And
right.
My Japanese is at the point where I'm just sort of cruising through it. And I thought, that clicked into a place in a way that I don't remember it ever doing before.
Interesting. You did, we did see that, I think, was it the woman with the child? Is that the one who ran the blog that happened to notice there was a white dude there and wrote about you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So that was kind of weird, actually. Just apparently we all sort of exist on the internet running different things, and we just appeared all at this one place because we're all just such crazy fans.
Yeah. And it's different in Japan where, I mean, yeah, it takes you a while to get places, but it's a much smaller country than the U.S. where how often... you know what? The four of us from Kanzenshuu have never been in the same room together at the same time. So
exactly.
It is much tougher to get everyone together. Maybe that's for the best. We don't want everyone together at the same time. We need a backup plan.
Uh-oh.
Somebody would try to take us out. I can see it.
We used to think about that during what I consider the heyday of anime music videos when we were all at AWA together. We're like, if anything happens, who's going to run animemusicvideos.org? Luckily.
No one.
Luckily. Oh, that's awful to talk about, but anyway. So Julian, that kind of wraps things up for now, but we have hopes for the future and hopefully we can reapproach something like this.
Yes, they said they might contact me again, and I don't know whether that means...
That's just polite Japanese.
Yeah, I don't know whether that actually means anything or whether they, if somebody gets sick or something, they might go, "You're on the show," but...
Right.
I have no idea.
It is weird that they would just cut it down from 5 to 4.
Well, I'm guessing it because it has...
Heads.
Meaning the racist.
I'm guessing it has to do
totally
with the number of editors, especially if it's like they said and it came from Shueisha.
Yeah.
Okay, there's only 3 of them. Why do you have 5 people going against them? But I don't really know the answer.
That's all right.
I guess the only solution is to be even crazier the next time. If there is a next time.
I think you represented everyone well. We appreciate it, man.
Yes, but we were joking a little bit that if Peking Duck, K17, and I all got on the show, that we could make Team Kanzenshuu or something.
That would have been nice.
That would have been awesome. You could all have like kanzenshuu.com t-shirts on.
Oh, jeez. I don't know how much we want to promote it because then we're going to have even more scrutiny than we kind of already do from some of the rights holders. We don't need more of that. I think we're good.
Yep.
All right, man. It sounds like it was an amazing experience. I'm glad you got to hang out with people, have a good time. Sure, it cost you a little money. We know, we appreciate that.
Yes.
Good times all around. So before we wrap up the show, we're actually going to cut things shorter than we anticipated because of all the news and Julian stories. Kanzenshuu stuff, all that information is already on the site, so you can check that out. And I think maybe next Kanzenshuu, we'll split them up into halves. We'll cover 2 at a time, new material, because Jake's translating some of the extra non-new information stuff, I think, like Nikomajin and all that. So we'll catch back up with that. But I did want to mention this because we haven't had a show in 2 weeks. We had I don't want to call a call for donations, but it's been a very financially straining first quarter for Kanzenshuu right now. I do want to give just the most appreciation to Jamal, Michael, and Mark. You guys, you really came through helping us out. I was actually able to kick Julian a little bit for his help. That means the world to us. It makes things a little bit easier for us, pumping up these VPS resources, and Julian leaving school to buy material to cover on the site that same day.
I make sure it's when I don't have classes to teach.
Well, yeah, I understand that.
All right, kids.
Being responsible.
Just stay here.
Julian Sensei's got to go buy Dragon Ball books. Sit down, do your schoolwork. I'll be right back. So thank you 3 folks. I'm going to come up with some more formal names and things so you can check out the donation page on the site. We appreciate it. Anything anyone ever does for us, it really, 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 really means the world to us. I appreciate it. So let's just wrap up the show now on that deep level of appreciation. We did have a couple little site things we wanted to mention. Julian, you've been doing some Toriyama introduction rework, and Heath, you restyled it, and I'm just amazed at the stuff that comes together.
Yes, so it's a part of putting up on the site all the little weekly Jump comments. So basically every week in Jump, the authors of the various series have a very short blurb in the table of contents about either their personal lives or something to do with the series and things like that. And this has been compiled through the work of Peking Duck, who owns every single Jump issue that the series is in. And Jake started translating them, and I'm going to pick up where he left off as soon as we get there. But it's sort of working at a leisurely pace at this point because, there's so much other stuff.
So
right
much
now.
other, right.
But yeah, at the same time, I'm working and replacing the Viz translations of the volume introductions with ones that are properly translated from Japanese, because I don't know what the people at Viz were doing, but they just keep changing unimportant details and even doing things like doing a localized translation so that all the Japanese cultural things are masks. It's like, look, if they're buying the manga, they know it's from Japan. Why are you doing this?
And even more so than that, they're reading the words of the author. It's not this, you're changing an internal story related thing for consistency. It's why give me a good example of some of the stuff that you've been seeing that you've had to fix.
So the first volume introduction where Toriyama mentions his dog, they decide that Mato is not, I guess they decided that it's not something that would make sense to people who are going, how does Matryoshka become Mato? So they decided to change it to Rosha.
All right, so they're adapting the name pun as they do with characters throughout the series in a real world situation.
It's the author's dog. It's something that really existed, It's not something that they can just change like that.
It's like Julian lays out a quote and I go to quote him and I just change half of it.
It's like Vegeto's name is Vegetto. You can't change someone's fucking name. Mike,
but that's different.
Exit soapbox area. The end.
That's different.
No, it's not. It's the same thing. Screw you.
It's like as though if they also changed the name of his son or something like that. So if
it's like they changed Pui Pui to Pocus. I don't know, something like that.
Is that what they did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. No, but wow.
Julian thinks it's funny. I get fake angry, and Heath just laughs at us.
Anyway.
All right.
Yeah,
so you're replacing the stuff.
Translation.
So the volume introduction is out of universe. It's not something that you're just gonna go change like that. It's real life. You don't monkey with other people's words in real life like that unless you're unless you have some
This.
specific agenda. I don't know. But I don't know what their agenda is other than to
or
show
was
off their...
forever ago.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
don't
so
know.
you've been doing proper translations of all that, and you're like, well, I want to have the Japanese on the page, and Heath came up with this very elegant English and Japanese flip-flop.
Yep.
Very nice.
Which is nice. I love it.
Little tabs.
Cool shit.
So you can see the Japanese, and if you speak Japanese, you can proofread my translation to show that
Nice.
I'm actually competent, I hope.
Anyone else have any site-related things they want to mention, Heath? You've been doing... I know stuff is done, and it's up and live. You just haven't linked it yet, but manga guide stuff as well.
Which manga?
The
guys
color
stuff?
chapters and everything.
No, that's all live and linked.
Yeah.
And up on the
That's
site.
what I'm saying, but
So
we haven't actually told anyone.
Oh, okay. Hi. Yes, because we don't post everything we do.
Yes.
So on top of going through a lot of the early chapter pages and adding in notes and Toriyama's comments and whatnot, I've also thrown together a couple sections for the Dragon Ball full color release and the digital Tonkabon.
Very nice.
So those are now up on the site, fully documented, and you can go read all about it there.
Cool. And I'm jumping back into a new guide, and I know you've been plugging away at guide stuff as well, so,
I know.
Get our ass
I've got
in the
two
gear.
guides going right now,
Ugh.
and I'm waiting on Jake to get back to me on one specific thing, and then I think we can wrap one of them up.
Oh,
and
nice.
Yeah, it's just... It'll be nice. I want to get at least one out the door.
Yep.
Feel like I've accomplished something.
All right, speaking of out the door, I got to get out the door pretty soon myself. So let's call this quits. www.kanzenshuu.com. It's been a pleasure speaking with you folks. Julian, thank you. Go to bed.
Okay. Bye.
Heath, thank you. Have another cup of coffee.
I will.
All right. So for these awesome dudes, and also Jake as well, and Mary, who joins us every once in a while, and look for our buddy Jeff, probably not for a couple weeks, because next week, I know he's not listening. Next week, we're doing his bachelor party, and then the week after that is his wedding. So GT is coming, but folks, recognize that Jeff has other priorities right now. He's coming back. He's coming back. Don't worry about it. So look forward to GT review of awesomeness. Man, I don't know. March is going to be crazy. I can't promise anything in March, can I?
I don't think anyone can promise anything
Jesus,
in March.
forget that.
It is not going to be pretty. It may be semi-fun.
Oh boy.
be fun
I'm just
sprinkles.
glad that everything pertinent to school will be done with, so
Nice.
I can spend my time planning lessons while furtively looking over at something to translate from Japanese.
All right, shutting it down. This was episode 324 of our podcast, Kanzenshuu.com. Thank you, dudes. We'll check you back next week. Julian, kill it.
All right. Thank you for listening to this week's edition of Kanzenshuu, the podcast. Please stay tuned as we try not to go mad from all of the stuff that's getting thrown at us. So, see you next time.
All right, gentlemen, so we will do that. We will hear Julian's stories about TV auditions, and then I briefly want to cover the Kanzenshuu new information, which really isn't that long. So
I just got mine yesterday.
I still have not gotten mine yet.
The mailman dropped it off at like 4:00 yesterday.
Did he really? Did you do CD Japan?
Yes.
And did you do the slow shipping?
Sal.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah. I was like, well, I guess it'll get here when it gets here.
Well, that was the thing. Mary and I were talking about that, where it was kind of most important that Julian went and got it first, and then when the rest of us get it, great.
He even walked it to my door.
Oh, that's nice.
I guess the lesson is I need to pre-order from Amazon. That was so annoying.
That was crazy.
What
Peking
happened?
Duck ordered from Amazon and he got it the day before it came out.
Well, that also could be because of the change in date.
They did.
'cause
They
I know-
honored the first
Yes.
one,
Yeah.
I guess I don't know if it's worth it to try this time. I think I'll just get it the same place I did last time.
yeah. I mean, they haven't changed dates or anything for these new ones going forward, so.
Right. So March 5th,
Yeah.
animation thingamabob.
Yep.
Part 1.
We'll see. We'll see what it covers, how far, what things.
I know I was wrong about new material in this last one, but with this one, I feel like TV, or not TV animation, but just animation, so probably nothing new.
Well,
I don't think there's really going to be much new at all until they either get to specials and movies.
I mean, they didn't correct any of the typos in the reprinted pages.
I wonder if they even know that they're in there.
I don't know.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is still Caramel Mama, but there's also, Banana Grove Studios. It's also done some of the
Grove's really
stuff.
stepped up and done a lot of the books recently. More so than Caramel Mama.
Yes. You know what I learned, though, that Caramel Mama's chairman is also originally the president of the Toriyama fan club.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
Right,
we also need to have a discussion about that at some point, because I was going through the Ask Me Anything corners, and it mentions that only the members of his fan club were allowed to send him postcards, and I'm not exactly sure if that's true. The other thing is that I'm pretty sure the fan club disbanded sometime between the end of 1987 and mid-1988. The final newsletter was sent out in like September 87. The last Ask Me Anything corner was, early 88 or something like that. So,
okay, yeah, I'm not really sure.
So what's the discussion to be had?
Well, first of all, whether it was only the members of the fan club who could send in the postcards, and also when it disbanded, because I think Kanzenshuu said that it disbanded when the series ended.
Yeah.
I think it was much
Which
earlier.
was an assumption, because at the time we didn't have anything definitive.
Yes. There's a comment from Toriyama somewhere, and Peking Duck has mentioned it, but I can't remember what it's from anymore, that he mentioned his fan club in the past tense not long after the Z anime started. So anyway.
Right.
Well, I know it was around like when he was doing Dr. Slump, and even before then.
Yeah, actually.
And it was a lot easier for him to do it when he didn't have as many fans.
No fans.
Right. I've seen, but I do not own a theatrical pamphlet with Dr. Slump movie. It might be the first one that came out that they were talking about starting it. I think it may be lurking at the book off near my house, and I should maybe track that down and see if it says anything about the number of fans.
I need the DBZ movie 1 book at some point if anyone happens to come across it.
I need all of them.
Well, yeah,
I
I
have
do too,
it,
but specifically
just the
I need one. Because I feel like I'm lacking in my collection. That would be a nice little addition to it.
I've come across the movie 11 one a couple of times. I figured I only needed one of those.
Yeah, I don't need that one.
I just want movie 1 because this is all part of my plan to eventually do that commentary track for it. I want to see if there's anything interesting in there, but I doubt it. All right, let's actually do a show. Now that we've
No, I like this off the cuff. It's
kind of done a show.
Well, I do have it for you, so I could go through and tell you what it says.
Yeah, I'm sure we can do that at some point. Yeah, I'm almost done with my second coffee here, so we should get going before it.
Yes. Wears off.
Yeah.
You have to piss your pants?
Well, that too. The subject of pissing pants. This is episode. What is it?
Stop.
324.
1 million.
324. Does that sound right?
Yes, it is 324 for the week of February 17th.
Yes.
This is Kanzenshuu, the podcast, episode 324 for the week of February 20.
I just gave you the date.
I know, and I have it clicked to show me the date, and I'm reading it, and I still said the wrong thing.